Yo, what up? Welcome to Unmustered, the podcast where I get to chat with the contributors to the culture that we love, the hip hop culture. I'm your host, Attender Zimbandu, aka TheUltraPoet, and this week I host KTheChosen. Hey man, introduce yourself.
Hey, what's up, bro? Honored to finally be on the show. I go by the name KTheChosen. Originally from Zimbabwe, like grew up there and then moved to Calgary, Canada to study business at the University of Calgary. I'm a spoken word artist and a hip hop artist, and yeah, I just love making music. For me, it's all about showing a message or sharing a message rather with people, but also keeping it entertaining. So I like to say that I like to make my lyrics both enlightening and entertaining.
Okay, you had to go bold with it. Okay, man. You shared a beat there, and then there are some details we'd want to talk about later. But let's slow down. Let's talk about you being a rapper. Uh, how did that start? And K the Chosen. Tell us a bit about that. Why K the Chosen? Are you chosen? Are you like Moses, or like how did you come to have that stage name or alter ego?
No, of course not. I would never, claim to be a prophet of any kind. But okay, let's start with how I got into rap, and then we'll get back into how I got the name K the Chosen. So I went to St. George's College, and being an all boys school, you kind of had to pick your lane. You're either an academic, or you were super sporty, or you were like culturally inclined. So you maybe played some instruments, or were into theater and drama and or public speaking. So I kind of like tried a bit of everything. I think in high school I was fairly smart. Right now, I don't know. But in high school, like my grades were right. And then I was definitely in drama and public speaking as well. And then sports I was alright, but like by the end of it, like I'd made it into like the hockey first team. But in between trying to figure out where I stood in those three fields, I found that rapping was something that I naturally gravitated towards. People would be banging on lockers and would just be freestyling. So I used to go by a totally different name back then, but that's when I really started to enjoy rap. I think also my dad introduced me to a lot of music, so I'd be listening to like Kanye West, Eminem, Kendrick, Drake, and the things that they were doing were really cool. Obviously, local artists as well, like the Ten Diamonds, Cynic, and David Jufunise. So I was like, no man, what these guys are doing is so cool, I want to do it too. So just literally just from practicing, the more I practiced, the better I got at it. And then I arrived in Canada around 2015 to start my degree. And I think by second year, I don't know, I just felt kind of lost. I'd been away from home for so long, and I was kind of having doubts about what I was doing. So I was lucky that my mom had written me a letter because I'm the firstborn, and she was very excited to have me. My mom's a writer, so I think it's also just like a family thing. Like my dad listened to a lot of music, my mom was a writer, so there's just this creative gene inside me. And she'd written a letter to me. It was addressed to Ketwe, which is a Zambian name, and it means the chosen one. And in this letter she was saying, I'm proud of you, my well, Ketu is it's a girl's name, so at that time she thought I was going to be a girl. So she's like, no, I'm proud of you, my daughter. Go out into the world and just show your talents. You're beautiful, you're talented, and I'm so proud to be your mother. And this is when she was still pregnant with me. So in second year, when I was thinking about dropping out of uni and just trying to like start life again because I didn't know what I was doing, reading that letter kind of reminded me to be proud of who I was and to have faith. I'm like, I hadn't been born yet, but my mom was already saying, I'm proud of you, so I took the name. I was like, Ketue, it's a beautiful name, but it's so beautiful, I might one day want to name my daughter that. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to take the name for what it is. I'll look up the translation. So I looked it up. It said the chosen one. So I was like, okay, cool, we'll take the K and then we'll say the chosen. And I felt, I don't know, it gave my rap name purpose. And ever since then, I think my writing has changed. My writing is a lot stronger. It's a lot more conscious. But I also enjoy it more because anytime that I say my name, I know the story behind it. And it just inspires me to keep pushing because my mom had that kind of faith in me.
Wow, I don't know, like that's one of the most inspiring stories I have ever had. Like we could talk about that like for the whole podcast. Man, like wow. Your family is such a supportive and artistic family and in a way that most of us would never really see. You know, my dad was kinda like that. My mom is all about working hard and all that. My dad was kinda like that, but to that level, no man, no. Uh, I don't know, man. You seem to have like been chosen really to do this, like to be who you are and to be chasing your dreams. In a way and in a sense, you are chosen. I hope you really grow into that someday. Now, you mentioned something about you being in Canada, moving from Zimbabwe to Canada, and you said it was for school. But we don't want to talk about that because we want to talk about you as an artist. How has that change been for you? Did you start recording when you were in Zimbabwe? If you did, has that change, like going to leave where you're living now, affected any of your work? Has it been better? Has it been, challenging? And take us through that journey.
First of all, thanks, man. Like it's definitely a blessing to have supportive parents, because I recognize that, especially for African children, it's not common, which is kind of sad, because I feel like, especially in Zimbabwe, there's a lot of talented artists. Like if you look at the big things being done in Australia, the UK, the US, Canada, and other places abroad, there's always a Zimbabwean involved. So we're talented, but that talent has to be nurtured at home so that you can believe in yourself and, really pursue what you care about. So yeah, I'm blessed to be one of the few of those. And yeah, man, I appreciate that. Like I do like the name obviously is also just like to hype me up. Like, yeah, I'm the chosen one. I got to go and do this thing. Yeah, so I did start recording in Zim, and again, this is another testament to just how supportive my mom is. So I used to be part of this huge group, like I said, went to an all boys school, so I think there was a group of 12 of us, that wanted to be like this rap squad, and then I think after some time, it got shaved down to like 8 people, and then I think at the very end was like 5 of us, but I think I was always the person who was the most serious about it. So we used to just record on my homie T-Mac's laptop. Would have those headphones, the ones that have like that mic attached to it, like that stick that comes out like a call center, and then he'd be playing Fruity Loop beats and would rap over that. So like it was really poor quality. Our lyrics were absolute garbage, but that was the start of the dream, and sometimes would take up to like 6 hours to make a song. And so it's over weekends, because obviously during the week we had school. So my mom was like, look, you guys need to start taking things seriously. I'm going to hook you up with a studio. I don't know if you know DS, David Zingwayo. He used to work a lot with Prayer Soul. So she knew him. She put me in contact with DS. We went to his studio. And that's the first time I ever recorded an actual track. So we recorded a couple of songs there. I recorded my own songs there. But nothing huge. Like they were on SoundCloud for a bit, then I took them down because that was when I was a teenager, and you listen back to the music like So I still have the music, but it's not available publicly. So I had experience with recording music, but I think once I came to Canada, I now had an idea of the process of making music, but I'd never really collaborated with people outside of my friends. So being here, I collaborated with more producers, I collaborated with more singers. I also learned a bit more about the marketing side of music, because I was doing my business degree and I was learning about, okay, this is how you pick your audiences, obviously with like just access to I guess more advanced technology. Obviously we have Wi-Fi and everything back home, but it's so unstable. You plan to release a song and then Zessa dips. So being here, I think allowed me to like really embrace technology and how it's related to music. So I've really stepped up like my social media game. I've stepped up my even like my collaboration game, where I can talk to several artists at a time, and we'll just have a Google Drive where we're throwing all the music in there. So the process definitely started in Zim, but I think coming to Canada helped me really embrace it. But then also it kind of helped me keep the root in Zim, but then like really develop as I've kind of been exposed to how the rest of the world creates and shares music.
All right, man. Obviously, when you start out doing something, and the problem with us as artists, usually we want to go public before we actually nurture our talents. And some of the times we end up being embarrassed of the work that we've done and taking it down and all that stuff. I think for someone who is listening who hasn't put out work, it's best to like work on your craft. Make your friends listen, because at the end of the day, if you're still starting out, even if you make the stuff public, most probably your friends are still the people that are gonna listen. So make them listen, like get their honest opinion. But that's something that we are not open to. Maybe as artists, the arrogance, the pride, you be like, I can do this, I can do this, I'm good, I want to put this work out and all that stuff. And then at the end of the day, we end up like taking it down. And everybody's been through that. I've been through that. Now, definitely moving to maybe a different country. Maybe in Zimbabwe we don't have a few things and all that, like maybe where I come from and maybe where a lot of artists come from, we don't have Wi-Fi and proper recording places and all that. And I'm definitely thinking that moving to Canada like made that part a little better in a sense. Now, you sound to have like really grown and worked on a lot of stuff, different stuff. Now take us through maybe some of the early stages of you working on music and releasing it. Do you have like certain moments you feel like now I'm starting to do it on a professional level? Maybe the projects that you dropped, maybe the singles and whatever that you worked on, that you felt like now this is it. Now I'm working. Now I'm an artist.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think there's so much that goes into being an artist, and a lot of that is being able to trust your circle. So whoever is involved in confirming that no, this is good or whatever, but also just being able to grow. I think growth is so important as an artist. You never want to sound the same, and the more music you put out, the better you get at being able to say, okay, this is good, I'll keep this. No, this is bad, let me get rid of that. So I don't know, there's so many points in, I guess, my growth as an artist. I think the first one would be kind of moving from only posting on SoundCloud. So when I was in Zim, I think Spotify was still fairly new. I don't think that I had heard of it. So in high school, when I made music, I just uploaded to SoundCloud, and then I'll just like share a link on Facebook, and getting one or two people saying, "Oh, this is dope, this is dope." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then I got to Canada and I started learning about digital aggregators like your DistroKids, your CD Baby, your TuneCore. And these are just services where you upload your music to there, and then it sends the music to all the stores. So like iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, Audiomack, all of these really cool platforms. And for me, that felt like official, because I'm like, oh, now I'm a Spotify artist. I'm not a SoundCloud artist anymore. So I think the first track I ever did, which went up on Spotify, was like a big moment for me. After that, I think I would say being asked to perform. People had heard my stuff, they'd seen a little bit of my content on social media, and I was invited to the showcase where they're taking different artists from around Calgary to perform art. So it was just cool. I was like, wow, someone actually listened to my music and wants me to perform. And then after that was now making a full project. My first project was called Nomad's Land. Listening back to it now, I'm like, whoa, there's so much I could have worked on with this. But, that was the first major project I ever released. And, that was a great moment for me. And I think right now, I'm like 2 or 3 projects after that now. And the greatest moment of growth I'm feeling right now is collaborating with artists who I feel are either better than me or at the same level, where I'm like, okay, now I'm respected a bit in the community. I can ask for features from bigger people, and also be able to hold my own on a track with them. So I think that's kind of where I'm at right now, where the biggest thing is like, now when I ask someone, let's work together, I have enough experience, I have enough understanding of what I'm doing, where they're like, yeah, I'm down. So yeah, that's kind of been my journey with the growth in music.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. I think at certain point you have to grow a certain confidence, especially if you're an artist, because if you don't give yourself value, Nobody's ever gonna give you value. And yeah, I remember when I first got my own stuff on iTunes and Spotify, the excitement was there, but then I realized that it's just another SoundCloud, it's just another audio Mac. The impact is in how you distribute and actually how you market the music and how people take it. Now you talked about the amazing stuff, the colorful stuff. Now talk to us about some of the hurdles, some of the problems that you faced moving to a new country, maybe probably being different and all that stuff. Like, how did you navigate that as being an artist in a new place, and has that stunted your growth in any way?
Yo, I 100% agree with that. A lot of times we get caught up in like the shiny objects and like, oh, look, my music on Spotify. But it's like, yeah, but no one's listening to it though. So it's important to have a strong marketing plan as well and understand how to get people to Spotify. And if, why Spotify? Are you marketing to people who listen to Spotify? Maybe they're actually Apple Music listeners, so maybe start focusing on that. So that's super important. Yeah, I definitely went through a lot of like adjustment and adaptation. Being in a foreign country, like I mentioned, kind of like the trigger of all this was me feeling out of place in second year, and a lot of that came from just missing home. It's cold this side sometimes. So in winter, like it's hard to feel motivated because you go outside, it's cold. The days are so short, and we're about 8 to 9 hours, depending on the time of year, ahead of Zim. So talking to my parents, like I'll be talking to them when it's nighttime their side, morning side my time, or opposite. And I just kind of felt alone for a little bit. Thankfully, like now I have friends and homies that I talk to, so like I'm not as alone. But just like overcoming that transition phase of not knowing anybody, not knowing what to do, and then finally getting comfortable in your environment. As a musician, it was challenging because obviously I'm coming from Zimbabwe and I've got like the way that I hear music that side, and then I came here and people have a different sound. You're like, okay, do I adopt their sound? Do I keep my own? Do I continue to rap in English, or do I rap more in vernacular because that makes me stand out more? But it also means people won't understand my lyrics. I remember the first time I got a good friend of mine, Mazoe Papi, to do a interlude on one of my songs, and the producer was like, "What's he saying? He sounds scary. I don't like this." I'm like, "No, relax. If you understood Shana, you'd know that this is hilarious. He's doing a hilarious skit, and just things like that where sometimes the message can get lost in translation, and it can be intimidating too, where you're in a new city and you're trying to like get people to rally behind you, but you don't even know if your own people would support. Like, I mean, like, especially because I think hip hop is still a fairly new genre in Zim, and unfortunately for me, when it started blowing up, when we started getting the Takuras, the Holy Tens, the Kiki Badasses, the Tashas, that was when I left. So I was never in Zim when hip hop was popping, was still like urban grooves and dancehall. I left, and then hip hop got like dope. I'm like, so I had no reference as to like what I should expect from fans, because being at home, it was just a high school thing, and then coming here, I'm now an adult and I don't know how like the Canadian audience receives hip hop. So there was just like a lot of like trying to find myself in between those two worlds. But I think I've navigated it well, and I found a way to balance both. Um, so I'm thankful for those challenges because it really helped me develop my sound and my approach to music.
All right. I hear you. I hear you, man. We all gotta like adjust to the places that we get in, because in life you're always gonna be in a different place. Things are gonna change. People are gonna change. So you have to keep adjusting every time you move to a certain place in life, maybe physically or emotionally or any other difference. Now, like, there's one thing that I've noticed with the Zimbabwean artists in general. Like, if you look at other places, maybe South Africa or the States or something, people have support from the grassroots, people have support from the community. But in Zimbabwe, you want to be accepted by another community out there as other people, so you don't really have confidence to like really know what's up. I don't know, because in any person, most personally, the people that are from my hood don't even know what I do. Like, I'm getting support online from different people out there. So I think that's very integral, and we need to develop that in the future. So you've talked about a lot of things there, and let's talk about maybe your goal with your music. What are some of the goals that you have that you want to achieve with your music? If you achieve some of them, if you haven't, what do you think maybe are some of the problems that you're facing? Like maybe you have a certain number of audiences, like subscribers, monthly listeners that you want. What are some of the goals that you have and would want to have that you can share with us, and maybe the plans to get to that? Maybe someone out there needs inspiration in that lane.
Yeah, man, that's wild. That people don't know, but I don't know. To a certain extent, you're right, in that the support that you get impacts what you can do, especially when it's not from your own people. Because you're now creating something that you want for your own people, but they're not the ones connecting with it. And I think it can be very challenging sometimes. And then when you blow up, they're like, but you didn't do anything for us. It's like, but I was there. You weren't supporting me. So I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I like that you touched on that, because I feel, as much as I'm an artist, I actually really, really enjoy the business side of music. I enjoy the connecting with different people, whether it's artists, whether it's other musicians, whether it's businesses, to kind of build a story and support the music or support the artist. So a lot of what I do as an artist is to learn that. I'm trying to learn about marketing. I'm trying to learn about business relationships. So my goals within music are to build my platform as an artist and share my story, share stories of people who relate with my story, and eventually be able to kind of come back to Zim and build like an artist management agency, because like we said, there's so much talent in Zim, but there's not enough there isn't an infrastructure to build artists. I find every artist who's doing really well either left the country and came back, or they did things for themselves, but it's not built to like support enough other artists. I'd love to come back and be like, cool, let's set up this building where you've got teenagers working like in a cafe. They're the ones serving food and whatnot, and when people come in, the artists come in, they do their artist meetings there. Would have like a bus that takes artists back and forth, because even things like transport can be a problem for someone trying to record music. So you'd have like a shuttle bus that goes through different parts of town picking up artists. They drop you off at the studio, you record, you get on another shuttle bus, you go home, kind of like that Haifa shuttle bus that goes around to the different venues, because I feel like, one, that also allows younger kids to record. You're not going to some shady record station where your parents would be afraid that you're not safe. You're going, you've been picked up, everyone knows where you're going, it's safe. And that would really help build the artist sector in Zimbabwe, because it would be self-sufficient and you're always bringing in new talent. So you get to learn from each other, you get to support each other, and eventually you now have like an explosion of artists from Zim that have been like built in Zim, as opposed to going to South Africa and becoming a huge artist in South Africa. Then you know what happens? South Africa then claims you. They say, this is a South African artist, and we're like, no, they're originally from Zim. They go to the UK, they go to the States, and then they become like an American artist and a British artist. Like, no, but these guys are actually from Zim. So that would be my long-term goal within music. Short term is just getting my voice and message out there, because I know that my story is not, it's not a unique one. Like, obviously there's elements of it that are specific to me, but growing up in Zimbabwe, traveling abroad, there are many Canadian Zimbabweans or Zimbabwean Canadians out here. There's a lot of people in the diaspora, so a lot of what I talk about in my music relates to them, and I feel like it's great to be able to share that story for those who maybe can't speak it themselves. So short term is just to be able to have a bigger reach, to reach those people so that they can feel heard and feel understood. And then the long term would be to help build other artists back home.
You mentioned a lot of points right there. I think what we forget as artists is that when you go out there, you're representing a whole culture. People are like, oh, you're Zimbabwean, so this is what Zimbabweans do. Oh, you won't be KTheChosen, you wouldn't be you'll be Zimbabwe, you'll be Zimbabwean, you'll be representing the rest of us. And when you try to fit in, when you try to change yourself, you're setting certain standards for us as other artists from Zimbabwe that we might not be willing to go along with, or be willing to rise up to, or something. And also, like, being an artist means that you also have a responsibility for you to go and give back to other artists or other people that would want to venture into what you're doing, other maybe young people that would love to do what you do. And then I really appreciate the point where you said I would really want to come back and do certain initiatives and projects that help other artists grow, which is something really selfless and really great. And I think as an artist, if you have never had that thought, you are doing it wrong. Because me personally, I've thought about that. It is something that I would want to do if I reach a certain level of success. Now, let's talk about numbers. I'm not sure if you are at a point where you say, no, I'm doing okay numbers or great numbers, I'm satisfied by them. But if you are not, or if you are, what part does numbers play in your music? Are they discouraging you? Are they encouraging you? How do you balance that? Like maybe the output that you give to the people and the input, like maybe the feedback that they give you, how are you balancing that? Because most of us be like, okay, I put in a lot of money into this and I got like 10,000 views overly and all that. It's not worth it. I'm gonna give up from the money from the streaming. It's not even worth it. Like, how did you balance that?
Yeah, man. I think it's so important that when you reach a certain level, you give back. And I think it's because like you would not exist without other artists. So, you've got to make sure that the future of artists is preserved and that you make sure that other artists also have like that opportunity to do what you did, but at a bigger stage or at an earlier stage or on a bigger level or at an earlier stage than you, because I would love to see someone half my age like just blow up in Zim. I'm like, yeah, man, like that's great, like that's success to me. So yeah, no, that's dope that you've also thought about it. I think it's super important because it also makes sure that we can now begin to have a Zimbabwean sound, because now sound is being created within Zim as opposed to being nourished elsewhere. Uh, the numbers question is tricky because I'm definitely still an upcoming artist, so I won't try and like flex and say, oh, I'm doing crazy numbers. I'm like, no, it's still pretty basic. But what's important for me is the growth. So for me, one of my targets is to start consistently hitting 1,000 streams for each song each time it comes out. Whether that's in a period of a month, or 2 months, a couple of months. Like I'm not at a point where I can say, oh, within a week I can hit 1,000. Like I've had projects. I think probably like my most streamed project is maybe around 5K at the moment, and it's less than a year old. But I'm like, that took some time. It's taken over a year for it to get to like 5,000 streams. But what's important for me is that with each release the streams are coming in quicker. But what's also more important for me is that with each release my presence and brand is growing. So like I said before, like the first time I got asked to do a show, it was like a showcase, so it was for free. Then after that I got asked to participate in a showcase, but it was paid. And then after that I got asked to do a talk. After that I got asked to do a festival performance. After that now I'm doing a TED talk in July. So although the quantitative part of it, where kind of looking at the numbers exactly, they haven't grown much. Like they're growing, but they're not like significant compared to other people, but they're significant for me. Like if I was if at the beginning was getting 50 streams and now I'm getting 100 streams, everyone else is like that's pretty small numbers, but I'm like, I just doubled my streams though, so I'm growing. But for me, there's a lot of qualitative growth. Like the quality of the music is growing, the quality of the features I'm getting is growing, the quality even of just the press I'm getting is growing. Where before it used to be like, oh homie, can you write this for me? Now it's like I can reach out to like blogs and Zim, like Earground, like, hey, do you guys want to write an article? Like, yeah man, this song is dope, let's write about it. So a lot of the growth that I measure is more about how am I growing as a brand, how am I growing as an artist, and I think the numbers will then come after that. Because to be honest, I don't get concerned about streaming numbers because streaming doesn't pay a lot to begin with, but shows do. So for me, I'm like, as long as I'm getting shows, it's fine. Like I'm not too worried about this streaming thing. The only thing that concerns me about streaming is just the reach. The more numbers I'm getting in streaming, the more that my song gets pushed, the more playlists it gets put on, and the more that people will hear my music. So that's why it's important to me. It's not about, oh, now I can flex that I've got 1,000 or 50,000, 100,000 streams. It's more of, the more streams I have, the bigger my reach, and I'd love to reach as many people as possible. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Ultimately, I think people are being too concerned about how many streams I have, how many monthly listeners I have. At the end of the day, they are making music that they don't even like themselves, but they think like certain people would like it, and reaching an audience that them themselves are not part of. Because naturally, I think someone should make music that they would be a fan of in a way. And looking at you and looking at your music, it's kind of abstract. What theme would you say that your music is about, or you really focus on? Is it Christian? Is it grunge? Is it street music? What would you categorize yourself as?
Yo, I totally agree with that. Like, you have to be a fan of the music you make. 100%. Yeah, I think I fall under like the almost like backpack socially conscious rappers. I listen to a lot of Wale, Kanye West, who else, like Lupe Fiasco, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole. So I love storyteller rap. I love telling stories. I also love having a message in the story. So my personal passions are within mental health and kind of like gender-based violence, because I feel like a strong family unit really affects, or a poor family unit really affects someone's development. So when we address those issues, you create men who are more supportive in society, you create women who have a strong sense of identity and are independent, and these things all interact with mental health. Like if you don't have a good situation at home, your mental health is bad, affects your work, kind of affects your progress in life. So in my music, I try to make it fun, because no one likes to be lectured. I really don't enjoy rappers who kind of are telling you and waving a finger at you, be like, no, you're wrong, blah, 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 blah. I enjoy music where like you're listening to it, like, yeah, this is a vibe, I'm enjoying it. Then you listen again, you're like, this guy actually was saying something, like I hear the message. So for me, it's all about, being able to talk while people enjoy the music as well. And I think that's called like the backpack rapper type vibe. Yeah, I think that's how I'd classify my music there.
All right, I hear you. Kind of like the sub kind of vibe, the people gang kind of vibe. I don't know if that's it, but that's what I got from what you were saying. Right. Now, you mentioned some of your aspirations as an artist, maybe to give back to the community or something, maybe at a later time. But what are some of your own goals, personal goals that you have for your future that you'd want to achieve? Do you want to get signed? Do you want to get blow up? Do you want to move to a certain place? Do you want to, what are some of the things that we might expect to see you do or grow into in the near future, and see KTheChosen, oh wow, now he's a label, oh wow, no, he's now under a label? What are some of the things that you aspire to do and you are planning to do, or maybe dreaming to do?
First of all, that is so sick that you know who Sava is, because I listen to his music. I think he's really dope. He's really inspired me to like sing more in my music. So that's a perfect example. Yeah, like I was saying, like it's weird. I'm an artist, but I'm using being an artist as a kind of like a training course for myself to learn about marketing and music. So I think I'd love to do at least one or two major festivals, like whether it's like the Jacaranda festival in Africa, or maybe the Cape Town Jazz Festival would be dope. Maybe a Haifa performance if Haifa ever comes back. There's a couple of festivals aside as well, as like there's the Calgary Folk Festival. So like maybe one or two major performances to like, to perform to a huge crowd and just be like, oh, what's that like? And after that, I'll just kind of retire and just make music for myself. Because my bigger goal would definitely to be, instead of being signed to a label, I'd rather work at a label. I'd love to be that person who discovered the next 10 artists, or create my own label and kind of help usher in the next group of artists. It's only because I think my personality is like, obviously as a rapper, I am the front of everything, but I also do a lot of behind the scenes work for myself and other people. There's a couple of artists that I do creative consulting for. So like they'll show me their music, and I show them what to fix, or they'll talk to me about their social media campaigns. And I really do enjoy storytelling and marketing. So my long-term goal, my long-term dream in music is to like just be behind powerful artists, to be the person who kind of help them find themselves. Because I think those people are very important too. But also those people get to live a more normal life. If Drake was to like show up at your house today, you'd be like, what is Drake? But do you know who Drake's manager is? Do you know who Drake's writers are? Do you know who Drake's who deals with Drake's brand and image? And I think those people are important because without that, Drake is just an ordinary person, or he's just an ordinary rapper. But now when Drake travels, he can't just chill. I'd love to like travel to France or to Singapore or wherever and be able to walk around and be chill, as opposed to being like a mega celebrity who gets bugged everywhere he goes. So for me, like being behind the scenes is great because I get to be involved in the music, but in the behind of the scenes kind of thing, so I can still enjoy my life and keep it personal.
Exactly, man. Exactly, man. I agree with whatever you said right there, because it's a lot that comes into you being an artist and all around artist. And some of things think you're just gonna record music and put it on YouTube and you're gonna blow up. There are people spending 24/7, 365 days a year, like on music, on trying to see if they blow up, and they have 5 songs out there and be like, oh, they're not working. I have 100 songs. There's a lot that goes into that: marketing, branding, everything. It's a whole new conversation. Now, before we wind up this conversation, let's talk about maybe your influences at an early age. What are some of the music that you remember playing around the house that you say, this music influenced who I am and the music that I play right now?
Yeah, man. I think people don't realize that being a full-time artist is actually a career. Like you're recording music all the time, you're doing interviews, you're touring and all that. And I don't know, I think I don't have that personality in me to want to see it like be a lifelong job, whereas helping people talk about their music, I love doing that, so I can do that for life. So many songs kind of like flash to my mind when you ask that question. I think I actually grew up on a lot of David Chifunise. It's wild. Like I think because he did the theme song for Studio 263, and then he had that wedding song. I think it's I can't remember it, the one with the blankets, like I don't know, he was such a funny dude. So for me, like I always thought, rap can be fun. It doesn't always have to be like street and like super like cool. Like you can have fun and make jokes with it. And I feel like after that, I probably listened to a lot of my dad likes jazz. I've listened to a lot of jazz music. And that's kind of why I like this idea of singing in rap, because it adds a bit of melody. It kind of adds like a swing and an improvisation aspect to it. So I really love freestyling, by the way, as well. So what's other music? A little bit of tuku, which I think again like inspires like the instrumentation thing. I guess because my parents were just trying to like be responsible. I used to listen to a lot of Black Eyed Peas because it was rap but also kind of poppy. It wasn't like some serious lyrics. So that kind of just made me think of like the commercial aspect of music. So I grew up listening to the Black Eyed Peas. Yeah, I don't know, like, because now that I'm thinking about it, now I'm just like thinking of my teenagers. That's all the typical Drake, Kanye, Lupe Fiasco, Wale, Lil Wayne, Eminem. So all like the rappers that come to mind when you think of rap. And I think those definitely influenced kind of how I started writing. Lil Wayne taught me about like punchline rap, having lyrics that are very like visual. Drake taught me about being cool on a song, like whether it's men or women or whoever listening to your music, they kind of get a vibe from that. Wale told me about like being poetic. Lupe Fiasco told me about being woke. So like there's so many different aspects that I've taken from different rappers. So I think that's kind of how my music ends up being so multifaceted, because there's so many things that I think about when I write my music. I think about what's the story. I think about what's the commercial appeal. I think about, what am I saying with my words? Are these cool? Are these like aggressive? Are they like laid back? So yeah, I think it then just depends on the song I'm trying to write. Each song is different and has its own layers and different things that I combine with it. So especially because there have been so many influences growing up.
That's such a rich background in music. You just like inspired me to go back and really listen to David Chifunyise. He's really a great artist. He influenced a lot of artists that I know, like from being one of the pioneers of the what do you? I don't know if I'm still able to call it the urban groove sound right now, or I don't know, the Afrobeat sound or Afrofusion sound in Zimbabwe. Now, to talk about something that some of the people might be here to hear you talk about, how you got Soko Matemai on the record. You went on Instagram, you posted a video asking Soko Matemai like to be on your song or something. Like, how did that go about? Take us from the first time you had that thought to right now that the song is out and how it has been received. Take us through that journey.
Yeah, man. I feel like, again, this is where I say shout out to my parents, because they really gave me a good history of music, especially when we're going on road trips or going kumusha or whatever. We'd be playing local music and I got to learn and listen to a lot of it. Yeah, man. David is just dope. He's just dope. So definitely a pioneer in Zimbabwean music. The Soko the Soko collab, like for me, I'm like still amazed like that happened. And like I was saying before, part of the ways that I measure my success is the quality of the collaborations I can now ask for. So I've got a best friend, his name's Kuda, and anytime I finish a song, or have a song that I'm working on, I send him like an idea, I send him the lyrics and he listens to it. So I'd finished writing this song and I said to him, like, dude, this is a dope song. I really want to talk about African fatherhood, but I think I need a third verse. And he said, yeah, just ask Soko Matemai. And I'm like, I don't know him like that. Like, how do I just ask him? He's like, just DM him. So, it took me like about a month to muster up the courage to ask him. And he's such a cool dude. I think that's something that sometimes people underestimate about artists, that you just need to be talented, but you also need to be a good person, like easy to talk to, easy to communicate with, because it means your collaborations will come about more often. So I reached out to him. We chatted back and forth on Instagram. Then he shared me his email. I emailed him the track. Then we talked a bit about it as well. Then he sent me his vocals, and the song was done. I'm like, it sounds like such a straightforward process, but the entire time I'm freaking out. I'm like, what? Soko's gonna be on a song with me. He's so dope. He's like, I think he's like the kind of artist I'm trying to be, like easygoing, but well respected in the community, speaks about topics that affect everyday people, but still has like a swag to him, so I almost seem like a big brother. So the fact that he was down to make the song was awesome. And then what blew my mind was like, okay, cool, now the song is done, but me, I love marketing. I was like, we need to create a story around this that people are interested, so are you down to like create this narrative where, because the song is called Dear African Fathers, I would love for us to be writing letters to each other and just take videos of us talking to each other, kind of like how we were DMing back and forth on Instagram and through email. I want to have that exact same conversation, but we now need to record it so that people are seeing kind of like how it came together. Obviously, it's a bit dramatized. Like, this is not exactly how it went down, but at least they see it. They think, oh, okay, cool. I like that these guys are working on something. And just being the cool person that he is, he was like, yeah, dope, let's do it. He sent me his videos. I'm like, this is perfect. And the minute I released those on social media, it's so funny. I had friends of mine saying, we don't know who this Soko Matemai guy is, but he better reach out. He better respond to your letter asking him to be on this track. We want to see you guys work together. And just like the support from the fans was amazing. And I think it was great because he gets to be introduced to like my Canadian audience. I get to be introduced to his Zimbabwean audience. But also, like I said, I just love great storytelling, and people were so invested in these letters. It was like a show. It's like part one is KTheChosen, part two is Soko, part three we're back to K, and by part four, it's been revealed that this is all just us letting you know that there's a song coming. And I think that's something I'd love to see more of. People getting creative with how they announce music, but also getting creative with who they collaborate with. You know, these are I saw one comment that said Marasta Makunetsa. And it was too funny because I'm like, I didn't even think about that. I didn't think about the fact that we both have dreadlocks, but that is something that everybody just can now connect the two of us with, like, this is like a dreadlocked collaboration. So that's how that came about. And honestly, I think he really tied the song together really well. I learned a lot from him as well, being a more experienced person in the game. Like, he had tips and tricks for me. And I think that's something that's important about collaboration, that you learn from each person you work with, and by the end of it, you've learned and grown so much as an artist yourself.
I think the problem is with us. Some of those really dope artists that we look up to, the Soko Matemais and the Takuras, and I don't know about Takura, but I personally had an experience with Cynic. I got him on my project. I was like, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna ask him, and then I did, and he was like, okay, let's do it. I was like, what? I think that's the same experience. As in, some of those really dope artists are not really selfish or anything. They are really good people, and if they don't have like a lot of management and procedures in between, you can really work with them. And I think chemistry is a very important thing if you really want to work and make music with someone. And I think it will be really dope too for me to get Soko Matemai side. I really wanted to have him on this podcast, but I think, as I said to you before, about like I want this to be about you. I want this episode to be about you and not necessarily be about Soko Matemai. And I want it to be the next episode that I have with Soko Matemai, and he answers these questions. It would be like a sick one. Be like, okay, when I hear his side of the story, which is quite amazing. So before we round this up and play with a game with you, a big game called Random 10, I want to ask you, how has been the response to the song, and are you liking the response? Is it something that you expected? Are they surprises in the unfolding of the story? Because I heard the song, it's really amazing. I love your verses on it. I loved Soko Matemai's verse on it. It's a really amazing record. And to tie that up with, maybe is it part of a project that's coming, an album? Is it a single that's just like a loose or something? Give us the whole picture, maybe the response to the single, and whether it's fitting into a whole project or it's just like on its own.
Cynic is another artist I grew up listening to, and another artist whose DMs I've crept into. And he's so cool, man. Like, when I put out the song, he actually shared it on his story, so yeah. Honestly, Zim artists are not as scary as I thought they would be, but I think it's also just down to each person's personality. So shout out to both Cynic and Soko. I think they're very easygoing people, but also very talented. I think sometimes people confuse those two, that the people who are easy to get a hold of are not as skilled, so they need the features. And it's like, no, they just are genuine people who are happy to work with people. So for sure, yeah, I'll definitely let Soko tell his side of the story. It'll be interesting to see like what his perspective was. Like, this random dude just messaged me. So I'm excited to hear what he has to say. But yeah, like he really came through. Like, when I told him the idea, he told me he'd already been working on a song talking about African parenting, and I think his verse really ties the song together. So it's been dope. Everybody's heard it, loves it. They're like, yo, I have no idea what you're saying in that hook, but it's just a vibe. I like how it sounds. The message is really strong. It's weird because like I usually don't start reflecting on responses until a week later. I like to let the song breathe for a week. It's only been 4 days, but everybody who's heard it has said they love it. Some people have actually said it's my best song. I'm like, what? That's crazy. So I'm really blessed. I'm really grateful for everyone who's listened to it so far. I've submitted it to a couple of blogs, and a lot of the blogs have been like, no, we love it. We're gonna post it or share it on our playlist. Maybe the only critique I've received is that, look, we love the song, but it's a bit slow. So people are like, the pace is a bit too mellow, too down tempo, which I can understand. I think for me, I didn't want something that was too fast, because like when you rap quickly, people miss what you're saying, and also it kind of makes it more of a party mood, where this is like reflective kind of vibes. But otherwise, no, the response has been great. I could only half answer the second question because it is part of a project, but I can't tell you about the project yet. There's some things that I just need to finalize. I don't want to say any names. I don't want to say when it's dropping. I just want everybody to just listen to the music, enjoy it. And when the project is closer, I'll come back and talk about it. So that gives people something to listen to and to look out for. Yeah, so that's what I'll leave you with. Like, it's a single from an upcoming project. I'm not going to tell you when, what it's called, or when it drops.
Man, we're grateful for the little details that you've shared. I mean, I know for most artists, their processes are different, and putting details out there might put unnecessary pressure on you, which is not what we want. We want to hear the project in the form that you intended it to sound. Now, let's play the game that I love. This is the highlight of the podcast for me, because we get to know you outside of what you say about based on what you like. So, number one, what's your favorite movie? Number two, what's your favorite TV show? Number three, visual artist. Maybe it's a graphic designer, maybe it's a painter, maybe it's a videographer or something. Number four, what's your favorite color? Five, meal, country, car brand, rapper, album, and producer. Let's go.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate you like respecting that, because yeah, for me it's more like I don't want the pressure, but also I really want to build that story like for the project. So I don't want to tell you too much about the project, so that when you hear it for the first time, it's kind of in the way that I've intended, like you said. But yeah, it'll be worth the wait. So, and the wait won't be too long. It's coming sooner than y'all may think. Yeah, let's go through this list of 10. It's funny, like I actually don't like these lists, because I don't like only picking one thing. I'm like, there's so many other things I like. But anyway, let's go. Favorite movie would have to be Deadpool. It's just, I don't know, I feel like Ryan Reynolds plays Deadpool so well, and I love comic book movies, so it's just funny. It's action packed. I just enjoyed it. I think it was a really good movie. TV show would have to be Community. I think, especially coming to university, there was a lot of things that I related with what was going on in the show, and it has a lot of people that I like. I continue to follow outside of the show. So people like Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, like he's a really dope rapper, singer, actor, everything. So the show just like really exposed me to a lot of different things. And then even like the show creator then created Rick and Morty, and I really like Rick and Morty. So like Community just like it's like the gift that keeps giving. Visual artist, this one's tough because there's so many people I've worked with personally, as well as art that I've seen. So this one I'm going to give to an odd person, because I don't think they're only a visual artist, but visual artistry is such a big part of what they do, and that would be Kanye West. I think he really understands design and putting stories together through visuals and all that. So yeah, I'll say Kanye West for visual artist. Color, blue. It's just a nice calm color. I love blue. Meal, honestly, just give me sazane stew and peanut butter vegetables. Oh, that hits every time. No matter how hungry you are, man, you will eat it. Oh no matter how full you are, you'll eat it, and like it just fills you up. So yeah, that would be my favorite meal. Country, this one's tough because I'm like, I need to be patriotic and say Zim, but I did have like the opportunity to travel to Singapore once, and it was just a beautiful country, like beautiful people. It's a really clean country, and there's a lot of vegetation, so you see like this huge modern city but with a lot of vegetation. So it would have to be Singapore. Car brand, I'm not really a car person, but I really like how the Audi R8 looks. So I don't have a favorite car brand, but I definitely like, if I had a favorite car, it would be the Audi R8. I'm still like very far from being able to afford one, but if I could afford one, best believe I'd get it. Uh, Rapper. Again, I don't like this idea of only having to pick one, but I think Kendrick Lamar has definitely had a big influence on like how I write my raps, how I listen to rap, how I listen to music, how I build stories. So it'd have to be Kendrick Lamar. For album, there's so many good rap albums, these albums in general. But I really like the album Distant Relatives by Nas and Damian Marley because they kind of look at, Africa's connection to the world's connection to Africa, and I think it's it's just such a well done album because Nas is a great storyteller. Damian Marley is a great singer, but also he's a really cool producer, and they put a lot of effort into this album. And it's like a collaboration I never thought of, but the chemistry was so good, the story was so good, and really made me proud to be African and proud to be in the diaspora because it's like I could experience both worlds. For me, it's almost like the story of Black Panther as an album. Like I know the Black Panther album its own album, but if I could characterize the feeling of watching Black Panther, is listening to that album. So Distant Relatives by Nas and Damian Marley. And then producer, you're killing me, man. You're killing me. Like there's so many dope producers. But I'd have to say it's a tie with Swizz Beatz and Timberland because they've had such an impact on hip hop culture, as well as the fact that they're very inspirational people. They've built businesses, they build verses, they're very open with their processes. They've collaborated with a lot of my favorite artists, and I think they're just dope, two dope individuals. I want to put Pharrell in there too because like he's just such a great songwriter and an amazing composer. And the guy doesn't age. I feel like music is the secret to youth because he's made so much music but stayed so young looking. Um, and then honorable mention for Take Fizzle. Like we wouldn't have Few Kings without him, and I just love his beats. Like his beats made me think, yo, Zimbabwean beats are actually pretty sick. So I know you asked for one producer and I gave you four, but that's like they probably tie on number one in my list because there's so many producers I listen to and that I really like. Um, yeah, so that's my top 10.
Bro, wow. I think if I isolate this part of the podcast, any fan out there, any person out there would know you better from this part more than any other part. Like I agree with you, blue is actually my favorite color. Kendrick Lamar, he does it for me. And the way you were speaking about all those things, like man, you're such an insightful person, and this has been such a great conversation with you. And I hope there'll be more in the future. But for now, we end here. What would you want to say to someone who has been listening to the podcast, maybe a fan, or maybe someone who looks up to you, or your family, or your friends who have been listening, or just someone in general who is hearing you for the first time? What would you want to say to them before you leave the podcast?
Thanks, man. Like, yeah, it's wild because as I was answering those questions, I had to think about, okay, why did I make that choice? So I guess it does really help summarize, I guess, my process and who I am. I think the first thing I'll just say is thank you to anyone who listens to the podcast, to anyone who listens to my music, to anyone who supports me. Like, it's weird being an artist. Like, you want to put yourself out there, but it can get very scary because you don't know how people will receive you. And for people who've just like consistently been supporting me, like you're part of what helps me like get better because I get feedback from you. You're part of what inspires me, so I'm grateful for that. And yeah, shout out to all the supporters. And then if you're needing advice, just never give up what you're doing. Like just listen back to all stuff you've done, look at the growth, and use that to inspire you. Yeah. But again, thanks just for having me on the podcast. This has been great. And I'm excited for the next time that we link up and talk about maybe the project or whatever else is coming out at that time. So thanks again. Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that has been KTheChosen. Ooh, he's dope. Go check it out, his music. Go check out his discography. He's got a new single out with Soko Matemai. That's dope. Called Dear African Fathers. You gotta go check it out. This has been Unmastered, the podcast, and I'm your host, Etenda Zimbandu, aka TheUltraPoet. Go follow us on social media at TheHeatRader and go rate us on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share with a friend who might like this. Thank you. Until next time.